second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Alana McLaughlin, and she's given us some information in reference to slavery and the civil rights movement, as well as the Civil War amendments themselves. And of course, Alana, before we left talking about slavery, you promised, we promised the audience that we would talk about slavery, the end of slavery, the 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendments to the Constitution, and you would give us all of that information in preparation to talking about slavery and human trafficking during the final 10 minutes of this show. But let's talk about the Civil War amendments, the end of slavery in 1865, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment from your perspective.
Now, if you're just tuning in, I'm going to give you a short summary of the first segment. I talked about some of my activities in life. My name is Alana McLaughlin. I talked about me, and then I talked about slavery, and I also mentioned the fact that some of the more light-skinned African Americans would work inside the house, and some of the more dark-skinned ones that were classified as ugly had to work in the fields. Now, in this segment, this is talking about after Civil War and fresh out of slavery, like everybody was free, basically. Everybody. And so after slavery, it was still pretty hard for African Americans. I mean, because it didn't change the fact that they were still hated, that we were still hated because we were black. It didn't change the fact that people actually still kept slaves. Slavery was abolished, but slavery really never stopped. It's even going on to this day. African Americans, well, everywhere, even South Asia, Ukraine, everywhere, there is slaves. I'm talking about everywhere. And now they don't really call them slaves, they call them indentured servants. And they call it, and that's basically it. Slavery was abolished, but slavery never really stopped. Slavery will go on, and it will go on, just like racism or bullying. It can never fully stop. I mean, we can prevent it in some areas, or we can prevent it, we can lower it, but it'll never really stop. I mean, because that's just how the world's gonna be. And so that's why I try to do what I can as a person, and I try to help who I can. I mean, I can't save the world. I mean, I'm 10. I can't even save the U.S. I can't even travel around the U.S. I'm 10. But I do what I can here in Nashville, and that's something that I do.
Well, in looking at the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, that is the amendment that gave the Africans its freedom, as well as the 14th citizenship. Why don't you give us some information in reference to some of the individuals that eventually helped to bring about freedom of the slave, Abraham Lincoln and some of the abolitionists, and that kind of information in reference to this?
The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Those are the amendments that kind of revolve around African Americans. The 13th Amendment, the right to be free. It said that there should be no more slavery. Slavery is illegal. If you keep slaves, jail. That made us free. And the 14th Amendment, the right to be a citizen. It told us that we are a citizen. That means we can have jobs, we can have houses, we can have cars, we can buy phones or run businesses because we are a citizen. And now the 15th Amendment, the right to vote, the right to state our opinion. And I think that's the most important. Well, I think the 14th one is the most important because that gives us the right to be a citizen. But I really think all of them are important because you can't really live the full life of an African American until you have those three unless you know them. Because if those had never been established, then we would probably still be slaves. We would be picking cotton, cooking meals day after day after day, and get nothing for it. But because of those three amendments, we were basically we were reborn, we were given life. And so the 13th, 14th Amendment just basically, it makes a true African American. And I'm putting emphasis on American because it gave us the right to be a citizen.
Do you think that citizenship is important? You mentioned the fact that Africans receive citizenship. Why is citizenship important, and why would you say that citizenship is important?
Citizenship is important because it gives you the right to be a person. It basically tells you that you're just not just a shadow, that you are important to the world, that you are a citizen. And that's why I think everybody deserves to be a citizen. And I don't see anything wrong with people not being citizens. I mean, because that's giving them life. That's giving them the chance to live a normal life as an African or American or anybody for that matter. And so that's why I think citizenship is important.
So that's the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, the Citizenship Amendment. And you think that the whole discussion that we're having today in America about some folks wishing to be citizens and et cetera, you think that we ought to support their aspirations to be citizens of the United States of America?
Yes.
Why would you, what would you tell the folks your age in reference to why individuals ought to be citizens of the United States?
I think I would, for kids my age, I would tell them that people deserve to be citizens because people deserve the rights that we have. I mean, they need to be treated like we should be treated. They need to be able to have jobs like we have jobs. Like they should be able to give be able to have the chance to do something like we're doing right now, being on a show, producing, working behind the scenes, doing all this. They should be able to have jobs and cars and pretty little pink houses and anything.
And so you think that the American Republic is large enough for the inclusion of a large number of individuals who up to this time might not be considered citizens, but they can add a great contribution to American society? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I also think bringing more citizens, like making more citizens in the U.S. would be a good thing because the more people you have, like the more NAACP members you could have, and the more they could be able to change the world into a better place. And so the more the merrier, really, because if you had a family and all of them wanted to grow up to be NAACP members, if they all joined the NAACP, what if they end up being the president and they ended up being the president of the U.S. and changing the world in great ways? That's why I think the more the merrier.
And so in a real sense, you stand in reference to the inclusion of a large number of other individuals, they're citizens primarily because Africans, when they came out of slavery in 1865, were not citizens, but yet and still they were able to obtain their citizenship. Do you think that they've made any kind of the Africans have made any kind of contribution since they were citizens?
Yes, they have. We've made lots and lots and lots of contributions. We have an African American president. Like we have great African Americans who inspire people. Maya Angelou, Oprah, anybody. I mean, even us, because we're all doing great things for the world in small ways.
Very good. And of course, let us take this second commercial break, and we'll be back with you following this very, very short commercial break. This last segment of the show for today,